Find Suzanne's work at SuzanneGibbs.com. Hi, so here you are seeing me stitch large paper. This project I introduced to my Substack and newsletter readers back in March of 2025. And it is currently, today is the end of June, and I'm still working on this piece. It turns out that stitching large paper with a big idea is extraordinarily time consuming. As you can see here, each time I put the needle into the hole I've already punched, I have to pull it through from the back, and then from the back I have to push the needle into the next hole and then grab it and make sure I don't get the thread tangled in the back, and there we go, I got it untangled, and then push it back through the hole and then make sure it doesn't get tangled on the front, and then look at the back and then find the right hole, and then I do this over and 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 over again to stitch large paper. When I stitch small paper, I can just flip it over in my hand pretty easily, almost like fabric, but to stitch large paper, it's a much more tedious process. And then in addition to that, if it's a hot day and my hands get sweaty, I have to stop working because paper doesn't like sweaty, sticky, dirty fingers. What else can I tell you? Once I get going, if I'm listening to a book on tape or a podcast, it really isn't that laborious. It's actually quite enjoyable to stitch. But still, this project is taking a lot longer than when I stitch smaller pieces. Do you want to listen to me talk for 10 minutes about how I don't want to stitch big, or shall I cut this video short? So we've been on here 2 minutes, and I think I've done maybe 4, maybe 5 stitches with you. How about we take a moment to breathe, just take big breaths and realize that this is just going to be one of those videos that everyone's going to want to fast forward through, because who wants to watch somebody stitch one stitch at a time? What's interesting is that when you're working with fabric, you don't need to make the hole first to make the shape. Fabric, you can kind of poke and feel around and the fabric bends enough that you can kind of figure out where you're going. But with paper, if I were to bend it, I would kind of ruin it, right? So there's this up, down situation that needs to happen with the paper. I can see, I'm actually voice-overing this video. I worked quietly. I can see that I'm running out of thread here, so you are probably going to be able to witness what it takes to change from one long piece of thread to the next. I can't remember exactly what it was that I filmed when I decided to make this video, but we shall see here, because whoop, look at how short that's getting. When the thread gets to the length of about 2.5 lengths of the needle, that's when I pretty much need to stop so that I can make sure I have enough thread to make a knot on the back with other thread. Oh, and those little doodads on my fingertips are silicone thimbles. For me, I have found them to be invaluable for holding the needle precisely, so that when I'm working, the needle doesn't slip when I'm going through the hole that I've already punched in the paper. The downside is, and why you saw me stop and kind of adjust it, is the silicone thimbles do make my fingertips a little bit sweaty. Also, surprisingly, I've already worn through 3 pairs of them, so this is something I'll probably need to buy quite a few of them if I continue stitching, which I have been. And I don't only wear them for when I'm working big like this. I also wear them when I'm working smaller or when I'm working with fabric that is more densely woven. It's just really nice to have that extra finger grip. Okay, where are we at here now? Yeah, we're at probably what might be the last stitch. See how that thread got really short? It's about the length of the needle and a little bit. Ooh, it looks like I'm being daring, and I'm gonna do a little more and make this hard on myself. Conserving thread. The amount of thread I throw away is maybe an inch, or at the most an inch and a half, each time I stitch it off, make a knot off of it on the back. All right, so there we are. Needle, new thread. I usually make the thread about the length of one of my arms, from my armpit to my wrist. You'll see me do that there. I'll lock it on the little card, cut the piece, grab my thimble threader. For some reason, threading sucks for me, so I use this little threader. I love it. I have about 10 of them. The one that I had when I first started sewing is still my favorite. The other 9 that I bought on Amazon don't work as well, but my first one is a little bit bent, so I have to be careful when using it. All right, so here we go. What I do when I start it is I don't make a traditional knot like you would for sewing on fabric. What I'll do is hold the little end, and there's probably about 2 inches of thread. I'll make 2 to 3 stitches, and then I tie both of those loose pieces to make a knot. For a while when I was working with paper, I used to tape them down, but I found that the tape wasn't lasting, that knots actually work better. So here you're seeing me create those knots. I'll knot it twice and pull it as tight as I can without ripping the paper, because ripped paper would equal this whole entire project would be, well, trash unless I could cover it up. And then grab my handy dandy scissors. I love those little black scissors, they're awesome. Snip it off and press that needle through to the next hole where I feel like the next stitch should go. Flip the big piece of paper over and pull it through. And there we go. Now you've listened to me talk about stitching a large sheet of paper with Sashiko thread for 8 whole minutes. Wow, I wonder if you're still here with me. Oh, got a knot, got to do it over. Let's see. Yep, there we go. And yep, good, I get to continue. I must have had a knot that went away. The magical length seems to be that arm's length. When I've tried using longer piece of thread, it gets so tangled so easily. And when I use shorter ones, I have to change the thread more often. So that's just something I've figured out along the way. And in case you don't know or you haven't seen my blog post about all of this or my newsletter, what I am stitching here are kind of abstract rocks. And I don't think in this video I show the whole entire piece, but if you go to my Substack, you can find this piece, and I'll maybe try to get the link in here in the YouTube video. So that's kind of it. I'm sure you may have questions that I haven't thought of to answer. Here I am probably deciding where to go next because there's a rock inside of the rock. Yep. Looks like I decided to do just the bigger rock. So in the comments, it'd be interesting for you to tell me, should I keep trying to work big even though it's, as you can see, extremely laborious, or should I just work on little houses? it's not your job to tell me what my job is. I will go and do my own work anyway. But it is an interesting question. Like, is the big worth it for the big walls? Or is the small and intimate work enough and enjoyable? You have now spent 10 minutes listening to Suzanne Gibbs of Suzanne Gibbs Art talk about stitching rocks on heavy watercolor paper on a mixed media piece using watercolor thread, sashiko thread, and different types of linen and cotton fabrics. I really appreciate your time for listening and for paying attention to how crafters do their work. And artists. I actually call myself an artist, not a crafter. Anyway, thank you so much. Have a great day. Bye.